Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to discuss the fourth module of Fluid Mechanics and Hydraulics. The course code is CET 203. According to our syllabus, the topics coming under this module are open channel flow, comparison between pipe flow and open channel flow, velocity distribution in open channels, types of channels, type of flow, geometric elements of channel section, uniform flow computations, most economical sections, rectangular, triangular and trapezoidal channels, conditions for maximum discharge and maximum velocity through circular channels, conveyance and section factor. This is the first part, and as second part we have flow measurement in channels, notches and weirs, discharge computations using weirs, velocity of approach and end contraction, discharge equation of rectangular weir, triangular weir, trapezoidal and Zipoliti weir, submerged weir and broad-crested weir. Our first topic is flow in open channels. So, what is open channel flow? Liquid flowing at atmospheric pressure through a passage is known as open channel flow. In case of open channel, as the pressure is atmospheric, the flow takes place under the force of gravity, which means that the flow takes place due to the slope of the bed of the channel only. Flow through rivers, natural and artificial canals, streams, channels, etc. are some of the examples for open channel flow. Comparison between pipe flow and open channel flow. In pipe flow, it is completely filled with the fluid, whereas in open channels, the flow has a free surface. Pressure in the pipe is not constant, it's varying. Whereas in open channel, pressure at the free surface remains constant with the value of atmospheric pressure. In pipe flow, the main driving force is pressure gradient along the pipe, whereas in open channel flow, the main driving force is gravity. Water flows from the upstream towards the downstream by the power of gravity. In pipe flow, the water level in the piezometer installed along with the pipe shows the hydraulic gradient line, whereas in open channel flow, water surface itself is a hydraulic gradient line. Classification of channels. Mainly, there are three classifications: natural channel or artificial channel, open channels and closed channels, prismatic channel and non-prismatic channel. Channels which is developed in a natural way are called natural channel. It has irregular sections of varying shapes. Examples for natural channels are rivers, streams, etc. Artificial channel is the one which is built artificially for carrying water for various purposes. Artificial channels have their cross sections with regular geometrical shapes, which usually remain same throughout the length of the channel. Based on the shape of cross section, the artificial channels are further classified as rectangular channel, trapezoidal channel, triangular channel, parabolic channel, and circular channel. Channels without any cover at the top are known as open channels, and the channels that is having a cover at the top are known as closed channels. However, the closed channels will always be running partially full of water. Some of the common examples for closed channels are closed conduits or pipes flowing partially full of water, underground drains, tunnels, etc. not running full of water. Now, prismatic channel and non-prismatic channel. Channels having constant cross section and constant bed slope throughout the length are known as prismatic channel, whereas the channels that is not having constant cross section or constant slope throughout the length are known as non-prismatic channels. Classification of flow in channels. Flow in open channel is mainly classified into four types: steady flow and unsteady flow, uniform flow and non-uniform flow, laminar flow and turbulent flow, and subcritical, critical and supercritical flow. Steady flow and unsteady flow. If the flow characteristics such as depth of flow, velocity of flow, rate of flow at any point in an open channel do not change with respect to time, then the flow is said to be steady flow. Dou V by dou T equal to 0, dou Q by dou T equal to 0, and dou Y by dou T equal to 0. Here V is the velocity, Q is the rate of flow, and Y is the depth of flow. If at any point in an open channel, the velocity of flow, depth of flow, or rate of flow changes with respect to time, then the flow is said to be unsteady. Uniform flow and non-uniform flow. If for a given length of channel, the velocity of flow, depth of flow, slope of the channel and cross section of the channel remains constant, then the flow is said to be uniform. If the velocity, depth and depth, slope and cross section does not remain constant, then the flow is said to be non-uniform. Dou y by dou s is equal to 0 and dou v by dou s is equal to 0. It is the mathematical representation for uniform flow, and dou y by dou s not equal to 0 and dou v by dou s not equal to 0 for non-uniform flow. The non-uniform flow is also called as varied flow. It is again classified as rapidly varied flow and gradually varied flow. In rapidly varied flow, the depth of flow changes rapidly for a small length of channel. As it is shown in the figure, when there is any obstruction in the path of flow, the water level rises above the obstruction and then falls and again rises for a small length. Thus, the depth of flow changes rapidly over a small length of channel. If the depth of flow changes gradually over a long length of channel, then the flow is said to be gradually varied flow. Laminar flow and turbulent flow. The flow in open channel is said to be laminar if the Reynolds number is less than 500 or 600. If the Reynolds number is more than 2000, then the flow is said to be turbulent. Subcritical, critical and supercritical flow. If the Froude number is less than 1, then the flow is said to be subcritical. If the Froude number is equal to 1, then it is critical, and if the Froude number is greater than 1, then the flow is said to be supercritical. Froude number is defined as Fe is equal to V by root GD. Here V is the mean velocity and D is the hydraulic mean depth. Hydraulic mean depth can be calculated by using the equation A by T, where A is the wetted area and T is the top width. Geometric properties of channel section. Depth of flow, which is denoted as Y. It is a vertical distance of the lowest point of a channel section from the free surface. Top width, capital T. It is the width of channel section at the free surface. Wetted area. It is a cross-sectional area of the flow normal to the direction of flow. Wetted perimeter. It is the length of the channel boundary in contact with the flowing water at any section. Hydraulic radius R. It is the ratio of wetted area to its wetted perimeter. It is denoted by the letter R. R is equal to wetted area by wetted perimeter, that is A by P. Hydraulic depth D. It is the ratio of wetted area to the top width, that is D is equal to A by T, where T is the top width and A is the wetted area. The section factor for critical flow computation, Z, is the product of wetted area and the square root of hydraulic mean depth. Z is equal to A into root D. Geometric elements of various channel section are shown here. For rectangular channel, area equal to B into Y. Perimeter is B plus 2Y. Hydraulic radius R, that is area by perimeter, equal to BY by P plus 2Y. Top width is B. Hydraulic depth, that is area by top width, BY by B, that is equal to Y. And the section factor is area into root D is equation for section factor, and here it is B into Y, root Y raised to B into root. Velocity distribution in a channel section. The velocity of flow at any channel section is not uniformly distributed. The non-uniform distribution of velocity in an open channel is due to the presence of a free surface and the frictional resistance along the channel boundary. The velocity distribution in a channel is measured either with the help of a pitted tube or a current meter. The velocity distribution curve of various channel cross sections is shown here. Next topic is establishing uniform flow conditions. Here, flow through an open channel is shown. Along the path, two sections, section 1 and section 2 are considered. Length of the channel is taken as L. The total head at section 1-1 is given as H1 is equal to Y1 plus V1 square by 2G plus Z1, and the total head at section 2 is given as H2 is equal to Y2 plus V2 square by 2G plus Z2. H1 is equal to H2 plus HF. Here HF is the loss due to friction. We know that for uniform flow, the velocity of flow and depth of flow will be same throughout the length. So that here V1 is equal to V2 and Y1 is equal to Y2. So the equation becomes Z1 is equal to Z2 plus HF. We can write it as HF is equal to Z1 minus Z2. Now, by dividing the both right hand side and left hand side with the length of the channel, we get Z1 minus Z2 by L is equal to HF by L. Here, Z1 minus Z2 by L is equal to S0, that is the bed slope, and HF by L is equal to SF, that is the slope of energy gradient line. From this, we get S0 is equal to SF. Discharge through open channel by Chessie's formula. Here, flow through an open channel is shown in the figure. Two sections, section 1 and 2 are considered. L is the length of the channel, A is the area of flow of water, V is the mean velocity of flow, P is the wetted perimeter of cross section, and F is the frictional resistance per unit velocity per unit area. Weight of the water between section 1 and 2 is given as specific weight of the water into volume of water, that is omega into area into length. Here omega is the specific weight, A is the area, and L is the length of the channel. Component of weight along the direction of flow is W sin theta, that is omega into area into length into sin theta. The forces acting on the water between section 1 and 2 are component of weight of water along the direction of flow, frictional resistance against the flow of water, pressure force at a section 1 and pressure force at a section 2. On equating the forces, we get omega into area into length into sin theta is equal to tau into P into L. Here tau is the shear stress, P is the wetted perimeter, and L is the length of the channel. As theta is very small, we can approximate sin theta to theta, which gives the bed slope S0. So omega into area into length into S0 equal to tau into P into L. From this we get tau is equal to omega into A into S0 by P. Here A by P is the hydraulic radius R. So the shear stress tau will become omega into R into S0. The shear stress tau has an equation that tau is equal to F by 8 into rho into V square. Equating this, we get V square is equal to 8 into omega into R into S0 by F into rho. Rho is the density. By substituting the value of specific weight omega as rho g, we get V square as 8g R S0 by F. From this, V is equal to root of 8g R S0 by F. Here, root of 8g by F is equal to C, which is the Chessie's constant. So, V equal to C into root of R S0. Here, R is the hydraulic radius and S0 is the bed slope. From this, discharge is equal to area into velocity, that is A into C into root of R S0, where C is the Chessie's constant. Manning's formula for the discharge is Q is equal to 1 by N A into R raised to 2 by 3 into S0 raised to 1 by 2. Here N is the Manning's roughness coefficient or rugosity coefficient. A is the area, R is the hydraulic radius, and S0 is the bed slope. Next is Cutter's formula. The value of C given in MK's unit as C equal to 23 plus 0.00155 by S0 plus 1 by N divided by 1 plus 23 plus 0.00155 by S0 into N by root R. Here N is a constant known as Cutter's constant, S0 is the bed slope, and R is the hydraulic radius. Our next topic is most economical or most efficient channel section. A channel section is considered to be the most economical or most efficient when it can pass a maximum discharge for given cross-sectional area. From Chessie's formula and Manning's formula, it can be seen that for a given value of slope and surface roughness, the velocity of flow will be maximum if the hydraulic radius R is maximum. Further, the area being constant, hydraulic radius is maximum if the wetted perimeter is minimum. So, for maximum discharge, the hydraulic radius R should be maximum. That means the wetted perimeter P should have the least value, P should be minimum. Most economical or most efficient channel section. First one is a rectangular channel section. Consider a rectangular channel section having width B and depth Y. Area is given by width into depth, that is b into y. Perimeter equal to b plus 2y. From the equation a equal to by, we get b as a by y. By substituting the value of b in the equation of p, we get p as p equal to a by y plus 2y. For maximum discharge, the perimeter should be minimum. That means dp by dy should be equal to 0. On differentiating, we get b equal to 2y or y equal to b by 2. Also, the hydraulic radius r is equal to a by p, that is by by b plus 2y. By substituting the value of b as 2y, we get r is equal to y by 2. Now, trapezoidal channel section. Area of the trapezoidal channel section is given as a is equal to b plus zy into y. Y is the depth and b is the bottom width of the channel. P, perimeter P is equal to b plus 2y into root of 1 plus z square. From equation 1, we get b as b equal to a by y minus zy. By substituting the value of b in equation 2, we get p equal to a by y minus zy plus 2y into root of 1 plus z square. For maximum discharge, dp by dy should be equal to 0. On differentiating, we get b plus zy into y by y square plus z is equal to 2 into root of 1 plus z square. That is b plus 2zy equal to 2y into root of 1 plus z square. On differentiating the perimeter with respect to z, we get dp by dz equal to 0. And on differentiating, we get z as 1 by root 3. We know tan theta is equal to 1 by z. That is 1 by root 3. Tan theta equal to root 3. And from this we get theta as 60 degree. For a triangular section, the area is equal to zy square. From this we get z as a by y square. Perimeter is equal to 2y into root of 1 plus z square. For maximum discharge, the vector perimeter should be minimum. That is the dp by dy should be equal to 0. On differentiating, we get a as a is equal to y square. We have a is equal to z into y square. From this we get the value of z as 1. Tan theta is equal to 1 by z. That is theta is equal to 45 degree. Hydraulic radius r is equal to vectored area by vectored perimeter. That is zy square divided by 2y into root of 1 plus z square. By substituting the value of z as 1, we get y square by 2y into root 2. That is y by 2 root 2. Flow through a circular channel. The figure shows a circular channel through which the water is flowing. Here, d is the depth of water. 2 theta is the angle subtended by the water surface AB at the center in radians. R is the radius of the channel. Here the vectored perimeter and vectored area is determined as vectored perimeter P is equal to 2 pi r by 2 pi into 2 theta, that is equal to 2 r theta. Vectored area A equal to area ADBA, which is obtained by subtracting the area of triangle ABO from the area of sector OADBO. That is pi r square by 2 pi into 2 theta minus AB into CO by 2. That is equal to r square theta minus 2BC into CO by 2. Here BC equal to r sin theta and CO is equal to r cos theta. By substituting the values, we get r square theta minus r square into 2 sin theta cos theta by 2 equal to r square theta minus r square sin 2 theta by 2. That is equal to r square into theta minus sin 2 theta by 2. Condition for maximum velocity for circular section. The velocity of flow through a circular section will be maximum when the hydraulic mean depth or A by P is maximum. For the maximum value of A by P, we have the condition d of A by P by d theta equal to 0. We have area A equal to r square into theta minus sine 2 theta by 2 and the vector perimeter P as 2r theta. On substituting the values of A and P and by differentiating with respect to theta, we get the value of theta as 120 degree 45 minutes. The depth of flow for maximum velocity d is equal to r minus r cos theta. That is r into 1 minus cos theta. By substituting the value of theta, we get d as d is equal to 0.81 capital D. Here capital D is the diameter of circular channel. The hydraulic mean depth for maximum velocity is m is equal to a by p. By substituting the values, we get hydraulic mean depth is equal to 0.3 D, 0.3 into diameter of the circular channel. Now the condition for maximum discharge for circular section. The discharge through a channel is given by Q is equal to A into C into root mi. Here m is equal to A by P, that is wetted area by wetted perimeter. The discharge will be maximum when A cube by P is maximum. A cube by P will be maximum when d of A cube by P by d theta is equal to 0. The next topic is conveyance and section factor. The discharge of uniform flow in a channel may be expressed by using Chassis formula as Q equal to AV, that is equal to area into C into root R S naught. Here C into A into root R is known as conveyance, which is denoted by the letter K. Conveyance is a measure of carrying capacity of the channel section. When Manning's formula is used, conveyance will be K equal to 1 by N A into R raised to 2 by 3. By Manning's formula, Q equal to 1 by N A R raised to 2 by 3 into S naught raised to 1 by 2. Since Manning's formula is used extensively, the expression A into R raised to 2 by 3 is called the section factor. Flow measurement in channels. That is the next topic that is coming in this module. Notches and weirs. Both notch and weir are devices that is used for measuring the rate of flow. Now let us see one by one. What is a weir? Weir is a concrete or masonry structure placed in an open channel over which the flow occurs. It is generally in the form of vertical wall with a sharp edge at the top running all the way across the open channel. Notch is a device used for measuring the rate of flow of a liquid through a small channel or a tank. It may be defined as an opening in the side of a tank or a small channel in such a way that the liquid surface in the tank or channel is below the top edge of the opening. Notch is of smaller size and it is usually used for measuring the discharge in small channels or tank, whereas weir is of bigger size and is used for measuring large discharge. Notch is generally made up of metallic plate, while weir is made up of concrete or masonry structure. The sheet of water that is flowing through a notch or weir is called a nape or vein. The bottom edge of a notch or a top of a weir over which the water flow occurs is known as a sill or crust. Now the classification of notches and weir. Classification of notches. According to shape, notches are classified as rectangular notch, triangular or V notch, trapezoidal notch, parabolic notch and stepped notch. Based on the effect of sides on the emerging nap, notches are classified as notch with end contraction and notch without end contraction or suppressed notch. According to shape of the opening, weirs are classified into rectangular weir, triangular weir and trapezoidal weir. And based on the shape of the crest, we have sharp crested weir, broad crested weir, narrow crested weir. Based on the effect of sides on the emerging nap, weirs are classified as weir with end contraction, that is contracted weir, or weir without end contraction, that is suppressed weir. Based on discharge conditions, we have freely discharging weir and submerged or drawn weir. Discharge over a rectangular weir. Here, a rectangular weir carrying water is shown in the figure. Let H be the head of water over the crest and L be the length of weir. Now consider an elementary horizontal strip of water of thickness dH at a depth h from the free water surface. Let area of the strip equal to L into dH. Velocity through the strip is root of 2gh. Discharge through the strip dq equal to CD, that is the coefficient of discharge, into area into velocity, that is CD into L dH into root of 2gh. By integrating, we get the total discharge as Q is equal to 2 by 3 CD L root 2g into h raised to 3 by 2. Discharge over a triangular weir. A triangular weir is shown here. Let h be the head of water above the weir. Theta is the angle of weir. Consider an horizontal strip of water of thickness dH at a depth of h from the free water surface. Now consider the triangle AOC. Here angle AOB is theta. From this we get angle AOC as theta by 2. Tan theta by 2 equal to opposite side by adjacent side, that is AC by OC. Here OC is equal to capital H minus small h. So from this we get AC as AC equal to h minus h into tan theta by 2. The total width of the strip is 2AC, that is 2 into h minus h into tan theta by 2. Area of the strip is equal to 2 into h minus h tan theta by 2 into dH. The velocity is v equal to root of 2gh. Discharge through the strip dq is CD into area into velocity. By integrating dq, we get the total discharge through the weir, that is Q as Q equal to 8 by 15 CD root 2g into tan theta by 2 into h raised to 5 by 2. For a trapezoidal weir, total discharge is the sum of discharge through rectangular weir and discharge through triangular weir, which is equal to 2 by 3 into CD L root 2g into h raised to 3 by 2 plus 8 by 15 CD2 into tan theta by 2 into root 2g into h raised to 5 by 2, where CD1 is the coefficient of discharge for rectangular portion and CD2 is the coefficient of discharge for the triangular portion. Now velocity of approach. Velocity of approach is defined as the velocity with which water approaches or reaches the weir before it flows over it. If VA is the velocity of approach, an additional head HA, which is equal to VA square by 2g, is acting on the water flowing over the weir. Then the initial height of water becomes H plus HA and the final height will become HA. Velocity of approach is determined by finding the discharge over the weir neglecting the velocity of approach. Then VA will be equal to Q by area of the channel, where Q is the discharge. When we get the value of VA, we can easily find HA by the equation HA is equal to VA square by 2g. So the discharge over a rectangular weir with velocity of approach is given as Q is equal to 2 by 3 into CD into L into root 2g into H plus HA raised to 3 by 2 minus HA raised to 3 by 2. Empirical formula for discharge over rectangular weir. Here the equations for finding the discharge over a rectangular weir is given. These two equations are applicable to the weir or notch for which the crest length is equal to the width of the channel. This type of weir is called suppressed weir. If the weir is not suppressed, then the effect of end contraction will be taken into account. If there is end contraction, then the total discharge will be decreased. Francis formula. Francis, on the basis of his experiments, established that the end contraction decreases the effective length of the crest of weir and hence decreases the discharge. Each end contraction reduces the crest length by 0.1 into h, where h is the head over the weir. For rectangular weir, there are two end contractions only and hence the effective length L will become L is equal to L minus 0.2 h. According to Francis' formula, the equation for finding the discharge over a rectangular weir is Q is equal to 1.84 into L minus 0.2 h into h raised to 3 by 2. If end contractions are suppressed, then h will be equal to, it is not h, Q. Q is equal to 1.84 into L into h raised to 3 by 2. If velocity of approach is considered, then Q will be equal to 1.84 into L into h plus ha raised to 3 by 2 minus ha raised to 3 by 2. Sipolity weir. So what is a Sipolity weir? Sipolity weir is a trapezoidal weir which has side slopes of 1 horizontal to 4 vertical. By giving this slope to the sides, an increase in discharge through the triangular portions ABC and DEF of the weir is obtained. If this slope is not provided, the weir would be a rectangular one, and due to end contraction, the discharge would decrease. Thus, in the case of Sipolity weir, the factor of end contraction is not required. If the side slopes are not provided, the weir will be a rectangular one. Then, due to the factor of end contraction, the discharge may decrease. So, this decrease in discharge can be compensated by giving such a slope to the sides. Discharge through a rectangular weir with 2 end contraction is Q is equal to 2 by 3 into CD into L minus 0.2 H into root 2G into H raised to 3 by 2. Due to end contraction, the discharge decreased by 2 by 15 into CD into root 2G into H raised to 5 by 2. This decrease in discharge can be compensated by giving such a slope to the sides that the discharge through two triangular portions is equal to 2 by 15 into CD into root 2G into H raised to 5 by 2. The discharge through V naught is given as Q equal to 8 by 15 into CD into root 2G into tan theta by 2 into H raised to 5 by 2. By equating, we get tan theta by 2 as tan theta by 2 is equal to 1 by 4 or theta by 2 equal to 14 degree 2 minutes. Thus, discharge through a Sipolity weir is given as Q equal to 2 by 3 CD L root 2G into H raised to 3 by 2. If velocity of approach VA is taken into consideration, then Q will be 2 by 3 into CD into L into root 2G H plus HA raised to 3 by 2 minus HA raised to 3 by 2. Now, narrow crested or sharp crested weir. A weir having a wide crest is known as a broad crested weir. If L is the length and H is the height of water above the crest, 2L is greater than H, then the weir is called broad crested, and if 2L is less than H, then the weir is called a narrow crested weir. For a narrow crested weir, the discharge is similar to that of a rectangular weir, and Q is given by Q equal to 2 by 3 CD L root 2G into H raised to 3 by 2. Discharge over a broad crested weir. A broad crested weir is shown in the figure. Here H is the height of water above the crest, L is the length of the weir. Small h is the head of water at the middle of weir, which is a constant, and V is the velocity of flow. By applying Bernoulli's equation, we get capital H is equal to V square by 2G plus H. From this, we get velocity as velocity equal to root of 2G into capital H minus small h. The discharge over the weir Q is given as Q is equal to CD into area of flow into velocity. Here area of flow is L into H and velocity is root of 2G into H minus H. By substituting, we get Q as Q is equal to CD into L into root of 2G into capital H into H square minus H cube. Here the discharge will be maximum if H into H square minus H cube is maximum. By differentiating with respect to H, we get small h is equal to 2 by 3 into capital H. By substituting this value of H, we get the equation for Q maximum as Q max is equal to 1.705 into CD into L into H raised to 3 by 2. Drowned or submerged weir. When the water level on the downstream side of a weir is above the crest of the weir, then the weir is called a submerged or drowned weir. The figure shown below shows a submerged weir. The total discharge over the weir is obtained by dividing the weir into two portions. The portion between upstream and downstream water surface may be treated as free weir, and portion between downstream water surface and crest of the weir as a drawn weir. Let capital H be the height of water on the upstream side of the weir and small h be the height of water on the downstream side of the weir. Then Q1, that is the discharge over upper portion, is given as 2 by 3 into CD1 into L into root 2G into H minus H raised to 3 by 2. Q2, which is a discharge through drawn portion, that is CD2 into area of flow into velocity. Here area is L into H and velocity is root of 2G into H minus H. So the total discharge Q is obtained as Q1 plus Q2. So this is the last topic of module 4, and with this we have covered all the topics in module 4. Thank you.